progress. What is up with you? I just ironed a shirt.
I taught my final class for the summer session today. That's what's up with me.
Oh, nice. I think I put it in my notes, but I didn't actually send it to you. I think you should talk a little bit about the check out, because you did mention it in episode 1. So I think it would be interesting to come back to it.
The checkouts are very rewarding because it's pretty much from top to bottom 100% positivity. And
nice.
kind of, it's like, it's validation, for me, for them, it's because the experience is always, and it's funny because like I'm spoiled, I've come to expect it, but then I'm always a little bit afraid that like it's not gonna be that way.
Right.
But so far so good. People who've taken an acting class for the first time ever in the universe, and in most cases the only time ever, people say like I didn't know what to expect, like I was just going to sit back, or whatever. But people really respond to the class. I really work hard to create an environment where people can do, because these aren't life or actor folks, these are regular people. So I have to kind of try really hard to establish right from the jump, like, this is a safe space and we can be ourselves in here. And obviously nobody does it right away, but as the semester goes on, it happens more and more. And by the end, and it also happened with the crunched up little summer session, after 4 weeks today, people were still, one girl cried. People talk, it's like deep shit, because a lot of people don't have the opportunities to do those sorts of things like at all.
I mean, they don't, they think it's like very inaccessible or impossible, or like or like so many people have stage fright, or they just don't want to get up in front of people, and it's a very vulnerable thing that we do. And then if you go through it, so when I was in South Korea teaching English, I did that, right? Listeners, did you know I did that? So we most of my teaching, we was like a language camp. It was supposed to be an immersive language camp, but these are like elementary and middle school age kids for the most part, a couple of high school classes. So their English level probably wasn't good enough to be fully immersive. But obviously I didn't speak Korean. I had a Korean assistant teacher who helped, but the kind of half of the program was them doing a play in English, a little 5 to 10 minute play based on their English level. And
so that you never told me that.
It was really cool. So there was one class that I still remember to this day. And so this was in whatever year this was, 2009, I think. And I was living in South Korea, and everyone knew that I was an actor. I'd done acting in college. I was planning on doing it. So then there was a Korean, a K-drama that came to our campus and shot, took place at a Korean high school, and our campus was like the high school. And so they were shooting in a couple different places there, and they needed an English teacher. And so like my friend, who was the liaison between the crew and the school, suggested me. So I was on 2 episodes of Namja, which is a Korean show called Boys Over Flowers. It was on Netflix at some point. I don't know if it is still.
That's really cool.
They straightened my hair. It looked real weird.
That's really interesting.
But this is all getting around to talking about teaching acting. So, I mean, it was always very rewarding. The kids were always very proud of themselves at the end. But the high school group, we have 1 or 2 high school groups, and this one has always stuck in my mind. And they were there, and Kotbura Namja was it was the hot K-drama, and they knew that it was shot on that, campus. So I think, there was that buzz with these teenagers being like, oh, we're on the Boys Over Flowers campus.
So it was the hot K-drama, and you're in that?
It was apparently the hot K-drama in 2009. Yeah, and I'm in it. I think I'm in episode 4 and 6. It's just like, enter into the classroom. I'm talking. I'm reading out of a book or whatever. I don't have any real scenes. I'm basically a featured extra, but I am speaking. So
you're speaking Korean?
No, I'm speaking English. I'm the main kid's English teacher.
I
Um,
see. I see.
yeah. So I'm teaching these high school kids, and it's like, they're a little older, so they kind of understand a little bit more. Their English is a little bit better. So it's just the most fun week of teaching that I've had. They're all having a blast. And at the same time, this show is airing. And I guess the week that they were there happened to be one of the weeks that my episode was coming out. And I think they'd heard
Uh-huh.
rumor. I think they'd heard rumor that one of the teachers was a teacher there, but like,
Hmm.
it airs kind of late at night, so they were definitely not supposed to be up watching it. And so they like, I think it probably aired on like a Wednesday or something, and the last day was Sunday or whatever. I could kind of tell, but none of them said anything about it. And then the last day, they all wrote me these notes that I had for a long time, and just telling me like how confident they felt in their English and all this. And then a few of them were like, we definitely weren't supposed to watch the show, but we stayed up late. And when we found out it was you, we were just so excited and blah, blah. And it was just so great to see they'd been like holding in that excitement because they didn't want to be the bad kids who stayed up past 10 p.m. or whatever. But
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it was really, really rewarding. It was a
That's
really fun
amazing.
experience.
You have a really interesting life, man.
I do. I do. I do have an interesting life. I just throw myself around this universe sometimes.
You got to
My
study at the Moscow Art Theater,
yeah.
which like to your, I guess to your average person, maybe that's
That,
even to a person who has no knowledge, that sounds exotic. But to anyone who's involved at all, that's huge.
yeah. To anyone who knows anything about acting, like they know that that's the birthplace of modern acting, of real.
Right,
What do we
right.
call it? Realism or whatever.
Psychological realism.
Psychological realism.
Yeah.
I think in my life, I'm trying to veer away from psychological realism. I'm trying to be psychological phantasm or whatever. While I'm thinking about it, let me tell you about my little story on set. It's just a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
blip of a story, but so I'm there and everyone in the crew is speaking Korean. Like, and I kind of like, I don't think I hadn't been on a set at this point. I think this was my first TV film job. So I don't even think I'd been
Now,
on
now,
like an
now,
indie film.
did you, how long were you there?
I was in Korea for just shy of a year
Okay,
teaching.
so how far, if far at all, did you get with like understanding like what's the language barrier like?
The language barrier is about as high a wall as you can imagine.
I
It
see.
was,
Okay, okay.
yeah, it was. So for a couple of reasons. One, especially back then, I didn't have confidence in learning language. Like French was my worst grade in all of school.
I see.
Two, they didn't really want the Americans. Well, it wasn't all Americans, Canadians, British people, the native English speakers to learn Korean because it was supposed to be an English immersion camp. So they
Uh-huh.
didn't really encourage us to learn it. So I learned a few phrases like "화장실 어디예요," which is "Where's the bathroom," and some other stuff.
Oh
"꽃 뿌는
man.
남자,"
If you were
apparently.
if you were to do that now, you would
Oh,
probably like be studying Korean the whole entire time you were there, like
yeah,
regardless
totally.
of what they said.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I did learn was the alphabet, the Korean alphabet. It's called Hangul, I believe. And it is, you're studying a little bit of Chinese. So, Chinese is a character alphabet. It's not hieroglyphs, but, it's based on images, right?
Right, it's
So,
glyphs. I mean, it's glyphs.
yeah, yeah. So the Korean Hangul alphabet was basically invented by some Korean, I think he was called a king in like the 1400s
Uh-huh.
to take the sound. Korean's very influenced by Chinese, the language, but they didn't have an alphabet for it. So he created this alphabet in like 1400. And it's like a pretty sweet, cool alphabet. And I don't really remember it now, but I remember really enjoying learning how the characters came together and like the sounds, because
Uh-huh.
basically every symbol, it's not like, in the Roman alphabet where each letter is a sound.
Right.
It's each symbol is basically what's the like half of a word, like part of a word, You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, like a particle. I don't know. Yes.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Man, this is something I should really know. I'm going to really kick myself for not remembering that. But yeah, so basically each symbol, they don't have letters, but they have like shapes that are letters, but you have to combine them into two or three shapes to make the sound, basically the
Right.
phoneme. And then you combine a few of those together to make the word. So
Right.
that was really interesting, and that was like it was fun building a puzzle. So to go back to being on set, I didn't speak a word of Korean at all. It was probably a couple months into my time there. Didn't speak a word of Korean. The cast and crew mostly was just speaking Korean. And so I'm on my mark. And I mean, you've been on sets before where like it kind of settles, and if you don't hear action, you're not sure if action has happened. So for a few takes, I like got it, I understood, but there was one, but I never picked out what the word action was. And
That's
so there
so
was this
funny.
one take, yeah. So there was this one take where, and the scene starts with me like reading or whatever. There's this one take where I just didn't get it for whatever reason. And so I was just sitting there kind of like looking at my book and nothing was happening. And I'm like realizing, I'm like, oh shit, I think I'm fucking up now. And one of the stars, like the star of the show, he's sitting there, he kind of gives me a little look, and I'm like, okay, action. I was just like, whoo.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah, so that was my first experience on set.
That's tremendous.
Yeah, it was a good one.
So is it on Netflix? You're not sure.
It used to be. I know it was at a certain point. Called Boys Over Flowers. The director was pretty prolific at the time. I wish I could remember his name. I guess I could look at some point. It was at Netflix probably like 5 or 6 years ago. So I feel like things don't really stay on Netflix that long unless it's a Netflix property. So I have no idea,
Goodness.
but I'm
If
sure
it's
our internet sleuth audience could definitely go and find it somewhere.
I gotta see this, man. I gotta see that. That's
I will.
that's amazing for like innumerable reasons,
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like I don't think about it that often, but when I look back, I'm like, that's one of the coolest experiences that I have had in life, and that like most people would say that's probably top 3 cool experience in life.
I mean, that's obviously that's super duper unique. That's your sort of traveling. Because in your life you have a pursuit that has to do with sort of acting in general, right? You've got the acting pursuit. You've got a language thing, which maybe was sort of back burner, and now you're studying foreign language. But that's a convergence. It's like Lost in, you've seen Lost in Translation. We talked about Lost in Translation. When the director is directing, it's like, does he want me to turn to the left or to the right? And he talks for like 2 hours, and he's like, you turn left.
I think back then it was more of a travel thing. I loved traveling. I went to Europe. I've been to Europe a few times. I've been to Asia a couple times. My sister lived in China for 7 or 8 years. She speaks Chinese. Now she lives in Italy, so I get to go visit her sometimes. So now I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, 23-year-old Gayev got to be traveling in South Korea and acting on TV at the same time.
So is your sister the cool one? Like, are you actually, because I think you're the interesting one, but is it really that like I'm getting the leftovers?
Yeah, you're definitely getting the leftovers. No, my sister my sister is super smart. She was the person with like a 4.7 GPA in high school. That I was always she was valedictorian or salutatorian or whatever. She would tell you that she's not good at the languages, that she just kind of like picked the hardest thing she could, because I think she was kind of bored by school. So she's like, I am going to study the hardest thing I can think of that will also allow me to travel. So she decided to get a major in Asian studies and focus in on Mandarin Chinese. So she's very in travel. She's so much better traveled than me.
So you've talked about how for you it was very important to get good grades, and you didn't realize until later on that wasn't the way it was for everybody. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing for all of you.
Yeah, it's a family thing. We were very incentivized by grades. Our allowance would, I forget what the numbers were, but it was like, if you get an A, you get this much. If you get a B, you get half of that. You get nothing for anything below that. And I think, and this never happened because I never got below a B, to be totally honest. But if you got anything below that, I think you had to give money back. It was very, it very much wielded the American experience, the American value system.
Wow, that's my. So you guys are like a dreidel, where like if you get the nun, you get something. If you get the hey, you get something. But if you land on the wrong one, you're like you gotta pay. Hail Satan.
Hail, peace and love. Cheers.